everybody. Episode 10. We are here today with Vic, you'll appreciate this.
Okay.
We're here today with my COVID bromance. Took me like 3 months to come up with that one. So Vic and I, we're here with my boy Victor Rampaderat up in Canadia, up in Toronto. This pizza loving fool. We were able to meet. We got to meet probably last summer, around maybe the end of the spring, I would say. And Vic and I hit it off pretty quickly. Vic was at the time a part of an agency up in Toronto, and he's since gone off and is doing amazing things, which we'll get into here. But Vic and I really kind of hit it off as, well, he's younger than me, but as quasi young fathers and entrepreneurs and doing his thing. Vic's been to the top of the mountain more times than I will ever want to in entrepreneurship, and that's insanity to me. But today I think you're actually our first international friend to be on the show as well. So as you can see behind him, he's got the drive to be from Ontario. Vic, welcome to the show, pal.
Thank you for having me, D. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. So before we get into it, like I said, Vic and I were able to meet. Vic Vic is unique in that how he comes across and the person he is and sort of who he is have really helped me, because in life you don't find many people, especially those that the unique part about this is that Vic and I have never actually met in person yet. We've only communicated through Skype or phone or WhatsApp. But through those conversations, we've gotten to be pretty close and shared, family stories and highs and lows and everything in between. But Vic, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story? How I'll get into how we kind of came about together, but give us a little bit of background, because Vic's story is unique in that when you think of folks from Canadia, you think of these mountain men, either that or like these Mountie dudes wearing, Canadian police uniforms and riding horses. Vic's different. Vic is a really special guy that has a really unique heritage. And so give the audience a little bit of your backstory about sort of where your family's from, how you guys got to Canada. It's a pretty cool story. So I'll let you run. Get it, bro.
Absolutely, brother. And it's funny that you mentioned that about our bromance and the fact that we have, never really met. And I was saying to Kayla, after you had told me about this episode, I said, Darren's almost like a modern day pen pal, right? Because we've connected in such a deep level and shared certain things that you don't typically share with people that you even know in real life.
Right.
And I think it's going to be a special day when we connect.
Or as you like to say, IRL, bro.
IRL, bro. That's absolutely right. And with respect to my family, so I was born in South America in a place called British Guyana, which is nestled between Venezuela and Brazil. Emigrated as a toddler. And it was really interesting because when my dad got here, we were claiming refugee status, and he was claiming that we were visiting, and there was a confusion at the border. If you've ever seen the show Border Police, we were being turned around. And if it wasn't for this 11-month-old baby boy crying, a customs officer wouldn't have felt something in her heart to say, you know what, you guys can stay for a couple of weeks and then you got to go home. And we never went home. So, it's one of those things where I'm very blessed to be in this country. The prospects of being back home would not have been good, But I truly feel like even though things are never perfect, they're a lot better than they would have been. And I've really tried to take advantage as much as possible of the opportunities that are presented. But obviously, some societal constructs have been uh, disadvantaged for us to move forward in sort of certain areas, and a lot of that's coming to light. But at the end of the day, I'm working on some of those initiatives as well to hopefully um, make both Canada and the US great, right? Because I think we have some really special people with some awesome talents that can really move the needle for both of our countries, and that's really what I'm about.
Yeah, it's we'll get into discourse and kind of like what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. But a unique thing about Vic, and this is interesting because we got Casey, my buddy Casey, well, our buddy Casey was on the show. Just through connections, we have this group of 6 guys that meet once a month that totally came out of, I don't even know, like literally less than thin air, just through people that I knew, connected with, and thought it would be great to get everybody together because everybody was kind of dealing with something at the time. And a lot of it too was in COVID, just to have somebody to talk to. I know for you guys up there, we're sort of, I think I talked to you like 2 weeks ago. We're kind of coming out of everything down here. The kids, today was the first day my kids could actually, they didn't have to go to school with masks on, which
Oh,
was
wow.
really, it was actually, well, let me preface that. My 2 younger ones, Luca and Tessa, were making fun of Olivia on the way to school because she had a positive COVID case this morning. So she actually had to wear a mask and they didn't. So my oldest was getting razzed a little bit. But yeah, today was officially the first day that they didn't have to wear masks to school. And I know up by you guys, I don't know where you're at right now. I did read this week that the NHL, that they did make a deal with, so teams could travel back and forth to, I guess, Canada now. But are you guys still on lockdown up there?
So yeah, in Ontario, we're actually entering stage one reopening as of Friday. So, it's really interesting that you guys are really only an hour's flight away,
Yeah.
but yet we have such different approaches to how things are being done. And I talked to one of my business partners this morning out in Delaware, and he was saying the same thing. Like as they've opened up, the numbers have gone down, and they're starting to see people are getting back to their normal. And here we're really, I feel bad for a lot of the small businesses and that have had to weather the storm for such a long time. And hopefully, as we sort of move back into this new normal, we start to figure things out. But I remember when you called me and we were talking just before Memorial Day, and you're like, the governor had just announced like no masks, and I was like how far behind are we with respect to the reopening plan? So it's been really interesting to live through this time, and I think part of it though was we connected on LinkedIn, and it's just been one of those, like I think bromance, like the 3 months that it took you to come up with that was perfect because it really solidified what we created in terms of that nucleus of 6 people. Because it started with just you and I, and then you said, hey, I've got a buddy, or I know someone, and we started to pull these people in, and we started to develop real relationships that we added value to each other's lives. We were there for people when they were going through things, and you were instrumental for me when some things happened at the end of last year. And it was just so crazy how things came together, because it almost felt like it was what each of us needed in this group of people. And it was such a special, it is a special group of people. And like I said, I can't wait till things open up and we can hop on some planes, trains, or automobiles to get together and break bread, and just have a good time, and create that camaraderie IRL, or in real life.
And I can tell you, people, this group of dudes is crazy.
Yeah,
It's totally crazy. Um,
definitely.
Between the 6 of us, you couldn't get more uniqueness in one group. It was actually funny, before we started rolling this, Vic was saying how trim and svelte I looked, and it was only because I got sheared like a sheep. I'm gonna send you that dodo thing after
Yeah.
this is done. Yeah, the uniqueness of how the world in all of its downtroddenness last year, it was definitely a highlight to kind of get together and talk and just be real, I guess. Um, you know, I know for Vic, I mean, we talk a lot. We talk at least once or twice a week through texting or WhatsApp or whatever. But Vic has a very special young daughter. Her name, he's got a series that he launched, which is amazing, called Dear Maya, and it's been amazing to read the evolution. I'll let you talk about it when you know, as we're going through it. But what kind of, for those girl dads out there, I guess I know it's cliche now with like Kobe and the whole thing, but why'd you do it? What was the purpose? How has it been therapeutic for you? Like, what was the drive behind it? Talk to me, Goose.
Wasn't
If you
expecting the I
if you
wasn't
want
expecting
to.
the question. Absolutely. I mean, you know, it's funny because
Well,
there's
this we're going
no, you know what?
into stuff that, like, I don't want people just to know about Dear Maya. Like, read it. It's really good. All it is Vic's letters to his daughter for when she gets older. But I think there's a lot of dudes out there that are feeling some of the feelings that you are. And if we could reach 5 of them, for people that see it, I'm not even sure if 5 people watch Homage, but if 3 of them watch it, and are able to kind of tap into what you were feeling and why you did it, and it makes it easier for them to potentially be able to communicate with their daughters, that would be awesome. So
Definitely.
tell me.
Maya's a special girl. I mean, I never talk about this, but she was a product of infertility, and we waited a long time for her. So I remember one night, as her mother was, you know, it's in the first entry, and it's very emotional. Like, right, there's a tie back to it, but I remember the moment when I realized this love for this thing that we had wanted for so long, and it's a perfect testament to sort of like success. You know, when you're an entrepreneur, anything that you're going after in life is, you know, you've tried, you failed, you tried, you failed, you tried, you failed for so long, and you actually get to the moment where this thing is real. And I think it was a moment where it was just something didn't, some sort of dream, and it wasn't good, and we were concerned of whether or not things would stay. And I just thought to myself, I need to write to you. And I wrote this one email. Like, I set up her email address, I wrote this email to her, um and I left it. And you have a kid, you have some traumatic experiences in the hospital delivery room that sent our family in a into a really bad place in terms of you know, Maya's mom's health, and it just was really challenging, and life got in the way, and a couple years went by, and there was just a bunch of stuff happening in life, which, you know, and last year, you know, a couple things happened. Obviously, Kobe's death. You know, someone who, and you know this about me, I don't watch sports, I don't idolize the players. I play the game of life. I always say, you know, like, for me, while everyone's watching them get rich playing their sport, like, who's playing the sport of life? How is my family moving forward if I'm watching that? And that's just my thought process on it, right? I mean, I want my family to win. I want to go out there and perform. And his death hit me. I had a really good friend that I've known for a long time. Once again, leads back into sports. He was the barber for the Toronto Raptors, and he used to cut Dwayne Casey's hair. And a good friend of mine, and we were texting back and forth one day, and we were supposed to get together. And next thing you know, I hear this guy is up on a roof grabbing his son's kite because it got stuck on the roof. And he loves his son just like I love my daughter. I've known him for quite some time, and through one of my agencies, I helped build out his whole brand for the company. And I actually have a picture of Dwayne Casey holding a shirt with my company's logo and something I've designed, which is kind of cool. And he says, or I hear that in the process of getting this kite, he slips and falls. And within a week, he passes away. And that one hit home. And then shortly after that, a really close family member who's in age of mine gets diagnosed with cancer. And I just thought to myself, look at all of these people that I know, and look at these people who I don't know that have left behind this family and this tragedy and this loss. And I thought to myself, my girl is not even 3 at the time. I would be just a memory. She may remember me, she may not. So I thought to myself, how could I codify the knowledge and the wisdom that I've gained, and to tell her that I love her, and to share with her what she means to me. So I created it, and I created it in private. And, you were one of the people I shared it with, and you were just like, dude, this is really good. And Casey, and, if, someone from the old agency, and everyone was like, dude, like, people need to see this. And I thought to myself, you know what? I think people do, because, there's a lot of people who didn't have that advice. And that was the whole purpose, is that I didn't have that. Even though I had my parents, they couldn't provide that advice. They didn't have that knowledge. They were too busy catching their footing, being brand new in a country, coming here with $75 in their pocket and trying to figure out how to pay bills and put food on the table. And, we had to figure things out, and they were there at times and try to support us as best as they could. But I figured, hey, listen, if you came to this country for a better life, maybe I didn't go down the same path that you wanted me to. I didn't go to school. I didn't get a good education like they wanted me to. I started a business when I was 18, right? I dropped out to do it. And I just wanted to give her that back, because if God forbid something happened to me, I just wanted to give her the tools for success. And in the beginning, it was all around, like, I thought I was going to die, to be honest with you. I'm like, I got to get this out there so she has it. And now I'm hopeful that, I can stick around until her 18th birthday, because I believe that this would be the best 18th birthday present for a little girl to receive. Because, as we've talked about, it doesn't matter how much money you make. How many cars can you buy? How many gifts can you buy? You get them anything they want whenever they want. But at some point, you need to be able to deliver something of value that is greater than any monetary gift. And that's why Dear Maya exists.
Maya, when you're old enough to watch this is why your dad is rad. This right here, what he just said, why he said it, why he did what he did, that's why I want to be Vic Rampaderat when I'm older, because I don't think that far ahead. I don't put that much thought into something. So Maya, when you watch this, Uncle D is telling you this. Listen, that's why your dad's rad. So give him a hug.
But I also wanted to share something as well, because there's something, and once again, it's hard to relive last year because there was so much, as to unpack from last year. It was a big year with a lot of pieces that, you and I know, as we've shared, but you were a part of it as well, which you don't know, because I'll never forget the video on LinkedIn. And this is, I think, what really brought us closer together, was when you talked about Kenny.
I said I wasn't going to cry on this episode.
And here's the guy sitting there thinking upon life and trying to make sense of this person's impact in his life, and what life would look past him without him. And I remember seeing this person who is this, wonderful agency owner, like Inc. 5000, all this wonderful stuff. And he's sitting on the internet in tears. And I said, I want to be that guy, because before that, before my daughter was born, I would never be caught dead crying in public. It did not happen. I probably cried in my entire life 3 times. One of them being when my daughter was born, the other one when my grandfather passed, and the other one was when it was a long time ago when I was talking about the dreams and goals that I had for my life with a group of people, and that was the first time I ever cried in public. But to see you do that opened up for me the vulnerability and empathy that a man can have. And that's why I said to you, man, like, I just want to learn from you, because I'm a new father. You have 3 wonderful kids that you manage a business, you manage a family, you do all of this amazing stuff. I don't know how you do half of it, but yet you're so real and authentic. You're not parading around like you're somebody you're not. And I don't know where that comes from, but it's just refreshing to see. And that's why I want to stay connected to you.
I could tell you where it comes from. It comes from failing. Uh, you know, we've shared stories on things and business and partners gone. And it's a part of it's part of failing. It's a part of being okay. Because I could tell you, being able to do that 5 years ago, being able to do that 3 years ago wasn't in the cards. Um, and I think part of doing homage is to pay that back to people, to show people. It's probably the 2 words that come up the most is vulnerability, which still is not comfortable to me, but is more a part of my vernacular, and empathy of just like walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. I have. It's funny that you mentioned this, because my catchphrase for Vic is 1 foot in front of the other. That's how I live my life now, every day. But you know, it's not easy. It's not, and I think another part of it too that has sort of allowed me to come out of my shell, if you will. Um, Failure and being able to put yourself out there when you realize that your children are going to see what you do. And by no means am I perfect. By no means, like running an agency, what I've learned over the last 14 and a half years, running a business and running a family are very different and difficult things, each and of themselves. I've become better at my mastery of running a business. I can tell you in 1 word how the family gets run, and that's Samantha, because she's got 4 kids running around, not 3.
Yeah.
Um, and there are days that, as a new dad, like I was saying, what happened with Luca this weekend, you learn new challenges and you learn new things at different stages in life. And I think that's a good thing. It really sucks sometimes. It really sucks. But it's a good thing. And so thank you. I appreciate that. But one of the things for me that attracted a year ago Darren to Vic was during a time that, on a global level, Vic is, what I forgot to mention to everybody, Vic is very much into travel. Vic travels a lot. Well, Vic traveled a lot. He has I can tell you the first thing you're going to do when you can actually leave Canadia is leave Canadia, probably.
Definitely.
But in a time where, and again, we're like an hour plane ride away, but Canada, it seems to me, has been very, a lot stricter. Not that the US wasn't. In the middle of this, it was like insane. But it seems like Canada has been a lot stricter with regards to like the easement of certain, rules and regulations with regards to COVID. And um, through that all, Vic was still upbeat, still happy. We had our moments. There were moments around the holidays. Vic had, COVID, and it was a tough go for him for a few weeks, but maintained his upbeat persona. And on top of that, at the beginning of this year, decided to launch a new agency called Discourse. And Discourse, I'm going to let Vic talk about it because it's extremely valuable to what is going on in the world today. It's extremely valuable to the human condition as a whole. But Vic, tell us a little bit about Discourse and what you aim to achieve with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges, and I'm very passionate about it, is having grown up in Canada, um, especially Toronto. Toronto is a very multicultural, diverse city. A lot of different. I tell people all the time, like you could pretty much take a world map, throw a dart at it, and you'd probably land. Like you'd have a pretty good chance at landing at someone or somewhere where that person is represented in Toronto. It's really a beautiful city. But one of the
Very,
things,
very much like New York.
very much like New York, very much like New York, right? And one of the things that for me I've realized is that there are some of those challenges around societal constructs that make it challenging, right? Like I grew up in a very marginalized community, a lot of gang violence. I was involved in a lot of it, and at one point, I was even banned from the entire region I now live in. And it's one of those things where I was able to turn my life around and realize that my friends weren't my friends, and I wanted more out of life, and I wanted to excel and do things the right way, because I think one of the biggest challenges of being a part of that lifestyle is you're always having to look over your back. And I knew that at one day I wanted to start a family. And when I did that, I didn't want to have to worry about whether someone was going to come for, now that I know it's Maya, to get to me, because that is very much what can happen in that life. And for me, I just didn't want that. So as I started to build these legitimate businesses, I've iterated on a bunch of different things, and been to the top of the mountain, to the middle of the mountain, and slid down the mountain, all kinds of fun stuff, right? And I think that's really life. You have seasons, right? You have times where things are great and times where things are rough. And we've really connected on some of that as we've gone through some of these things ourselves, and some of it in the last couple of years. So for me, the big thing was I wanted to do work that mattered, because in the last 20 years I've done a lot of stuff, and I've chased a lot of opportunities, and made some great money, and lost some money, and all kinds of fun stuff. But for the next 20 years, I really want to make a difference for Maya. And I think that as a father, it is incumbent upon me, and the responsibility lays on my shoulders to, do the best that I can to make change, right? And I think that if I'm not able to do something to better the boardrooms or better the communities in which we live by the time she gets of age, then I would have failed in some respects in my duty as a father. So this is why I choose to do this work, and really try to build belonging into communities, and cultural transformation, and DIB integrations to help communities and um, businesses. And today I was doing some benevolent work. I was working with the Toronto Police Service, which is the largest service in Canada, on their training around anti-Black racism, anti-Indigenous racism, LGBTQ, mental health. Like they've got a wonderful initiative, and they've tapped community members who have wonderful lived experience or educational backgrounds to come and help advise the police college. And this training that we're working on will be implemented to all new officers, as well as be a part of the training modules that existing officers have to go through. And I think that that's really cool as to what we're doing here, and the work that I'm a part of, because like I said, it affects me, right? And it doesn't affect everyone, and I respect that. And but at the end of the day, it affects me, and it affects my family, and we felt that. And I'm not going to complain about it, because hey, listen, when I got here, my dad said, yeah, you got to, you work twice as hard for half as much. And I just knew the rules of engagement. So I did what I did. And that's part of the reason why I have this insane work ethic. Because I just know that that's what's required of me. Is it healthy all the time? No. But you know what?
We're not actually sure Vic sleeps.
Part
I said we haven't had 100% proof yet that Vic sleeps.
you know, and even last night I was up till 4 a.m. right, and I just the thoughts keep firing. The work is there, and it actually inspires me, and I think that's what, for me, anytime I'm working on something, if it doesn't move the needle for me from a passion perspective, because I'm a very passionate person, it just doesn't get done, right? And I always find that when I'm having to do stuff that I don't like doing, I'm just like, ah. But when I get to talk about things that matter and that I can add value to the conversation, it gives me passion.
Bro, melatonin.
That stuff don't work, my friend. That stuff don't work.
Melatonin, bro. Obviously, you know, and it's a tremendous, both from a societal standpoint and from just with everything that's been going on in the world over the last, call it 2 years, a tremendous undertaking, that is important for our society, is relevant, is a nexus in terms of connecting people and initiatives, and it's very important. It's not going anywhere. I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. So kudos to you for talking the talk and walking the walk and following that up. I think that in the world today, there are so many people and there are so many things that need to happen. And I'm not talking about like across political lines or across race lines. It's the human condition. Like, we're all in this together. I know you and I have spoken about this. And it's one of the things that sort of drives me. I don't, you know, I don't care who you are, and I will say it with 100%. I'm not proud of it, but growing up in an Italian household back in the early, you know, 80s, you know, because there was racism, and it had nothing to do. My grandfather, he wasn't a bad person, but that's the world that he grew up in. That was his reality. About people taking jobs away from them, you know, as a labor force. My grandfather, and in reality, like my grandfather, as the years went on, he had his neighborhood that he lived in became more diverse. And so it was funny because you'd see him, like, he had a stroke as he got older, and he would sit out in the front yard, and you'd have like, it'd be like the United Nations on Louis Shortino's front yard. It was hilarious. But you go back to earlier days, and I can remember sitting at the table with phrases and terms thrown around that like I didn't even know what they meant at the time. And I remember shoes flying across the table, and you know, it was all kinds of craziness. But it wasn't rooted in the difference today. I don't think it wasn't rooted in like a hatred for somebody. It was the fact that like somebody's taking food off of my table, and that's where it came from. And again, you look back on it and you reflect on it. You're not proud of it, but that was like what they knew. You know, I think we've talked about it together, the six of us. You know, it was what people knew. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it wrong, but it's their reality. So I think in terms of the work you're doing, a tremendous amount of kudos towards it. I think we have a long way to go. But I also, and I'll kind of leave this with everybody, like, we're all humans. Respect another person's reality. And I think that's the other side of the work that you're doing, is getting people to understand other people's conditions, because sometimes it's not rooted in like, it's nothing personal between us. It's just, that's what I know. And it's almost like it's almost like the uneducation of somebody.
Well, And to your point, right? Like, I mean, we talk about it from an intergenerational perspective, right? Like it's what his dad taught him and what his dad taught him, right? Like these things are passed down. But I think one of the greatest things that I respect about you and about the group that we have and is the ability to center on humanity, because as we have engaged in discourse as a group of six, we have built safety into our conversations. We've built respect into our conversations. We treat each other with dignity. Yes, do we have a good time? Do we rib each other? Absolutely. I mean, I think that's what good friends do. But at the end of the day, we know that nothing is malicious or hateful. It's just boys being boys, right? And I
Yeah.
think that there's, as long as we all keep it respectful, I think one of the things that is challenging for people today is they don't know what to say. They don't know when they can say it. And what we're trying to do is really to build belonging and to talk about implicit and explicit bias, and that's where we center a lot of our work around, because it may not be racism. Like, what one of my colleagues is a retired deputy chief, and he's nationally recognized for a lot of the work he's done. And one of the things he talks about is about the implicit and explicit bias. And one of the things that I talk about is in terms of these conversations, is that there's an element of reinforced bias, right? Whereas if you keep seeing the same thing over and over and over again, how does that not shape your lens when you look at the world?
Mhm.
Right? But if we can center back on humanity and caring and love and empathy and vulnerability and some of the things we talked about earlier on, I think we can really start to move the needle. Are we going to accomplish this? I mean, for myself, I've already set the bar at, we probably won't accomplish this in our lifetime. But I think for the first time in a long time, we have the means and the ability to open these dialogues and conversations in a safe space where we can talk about feelings and talk about thought process, and like what we've done when we shared some things, and it ended up in a very emotional thing for me, because I felt it's something that I've experienced, right? And other people can't necessarily feel the same thing because they've never walked in your shoes, right? And it's about understanding just that empathy aspect of it. And I think out of the pandemic, one of the beautiful things that I saw was just humans coming together. We saw it in Italy before it hit the US, and then we saw it in New York when, people were, you know, out their windows clapping and thanking their first responders. And I thought it was beautiful. And then I'm hoping that that doesn't go away, right? We don't get back to everyday life and we're like, okay, we're like, this stuff doesn't matter anymore because we're busy again and we don't have time. I think, it's important to check in on people and really understand where they are. So, and that's one of the things that I personally have appreciated with this group, is that we're always rooting for each other's success, and we want each other to win, and we talk about real issues. And, we've developed a real friendship, and we've taken this crazy thing called social media and we brought it to life in real relationships. And I think, if we look at doing that in life and we start to learn about other cultures and other people and have conversation and maybe eat different foods and, just really try to understand where people are coming from, we might be able to make some differences. Because as we've seen here today, a brown dude from Canada and a half brown dude from New Jersey, because that Sicilian blood, when that sun hits you, we can just be boys, right? And we can scrap all the noise and just talk about life and parenting and business and things that matter to us, instead of some of the things that people are talking about that are dividing them and creating walls and barriers.
Yeah. I hope my dermatologist doesn't see this. I'm going after that. I'm going whole brown by the time I'm done with this summer. I take offense to that, bro. I can
You
get a
know,
good tan going on.
you know what? So as I told you before, like, here, a lot of my buddies are Sicilian, and like, we laugh and we joke, and one of them actually, there's a comic called Russell Peters, and if anyone hasn't seen him, I mean, some of it depending on what your tastes are for comedy. And I like to laugh, man. You talked about positivity earlier on. Like, if I tell you the stuff, and we've talked about some of the stuff that I've gone through in life, I've told some people and they're like, dude, how are you not angry at the world? And I said, it's all about mindset, right? You have the ability to be angry, and upset. And there's times where we're triggered and we can get angry and upset, but then we can also look for the good. We can look for the good things in life. The fact that we woke up today, there are people who did not do that. A day above ground is a good day. Let's start with that. And then, the people that you have in your life. And, for you, you have your children and you have your wife and you have your business and you have an awesome team at DSM that does amazing work. You had people that you've paid homage to that have played a role in your life. This is where it comes from. Gratitude.
Yeah,
And you've done such a good job at that. And this is such a beautiful thing.
Thank you. Yeah, I just something to what you just said, and tying it in with my Sicilian, like I can say with a straight face on camera, I never get mad or emotional. Ever. Ever. No, I agree with you. This has been awesome. I want to say thank you for being you, for hopefully one day soon Canadia will open up. I already told you I'll come up for some poutine and a Blue Jays game. I'll take Luca up there. We'll go for games. He it's so amazing, like bringing the social media thing to life. And one thing, if you don't take anything else out of this conversation, one thing I will say to everybody, all three of you out there watching this, make sure that you connect with people. Like take the extra step, go the extra yard or meter in Vic's case, to connect with somebody, because it very easily could have been like one meeting for us and nothing could have come of it. And it just slowly but surely was built up through conversing, through trust, through opening up, through this is what's going on. Can you help me through this? Can you walk me through this? Can I bounce an idea off you? And that's how it's turned into this. And we're actually doing it with other guys as well, that hopefully will turn into other groups and, in other parts of life. But thank you for being you. Thank you for what you mean. Obviously, homage to Victor Rampaderat. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, with regards to all your endeavors. I will tell you that on Discourse's side, on Dear Maya's side, on actually raising Maya's side, just one foot in front of the other, man. And hopefully through the years and down the road, we'll be able to continue swapping stories and successes and failures and tears and laughter and everything in between. But I'll turn over the last minute to you. Say what you will. Thank you for all you mean. Thank you for coming on today. Really awesome. So microphone's yours, man.
Appreciate it. And, Darren, thank you for having me. I remember when you first talked about this thing and we were sort of hashing out what it could look like. And you were telling me that you were talking to Casey. I was like, this is so cool. And then when you asked me to say, hey, at some point I'm going to want you on, I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And then last week when we chatted, you're like, hey, take the weekend. And the yes was immediately. And it was because I've never not wanted to be a part of something so badly because of what you're trying to do with Homage and what you're putting out there in the world. And I truly hope that more than 3 people watch the episodes that you've put out, because I rarely watch an episode where I message you. I'm like, dude, that part, how did you not cry? Right? How did that not affect you? Because I could feel every word, every emotion. And for me, as a man, I think that's special. I think what you're doing is special. And I feel like more men could model you, my friend, because the modern day man is one who has empathy, who has vulnerability, and who has the ability to wear his heart on his sleeve. Even though that sometimes it may get damaged and it hurts and it's uncomfortable, it's important because when we have people in our lives that care about us, to be able to come to them and let them know how we truly feel is really important. So thank you for leading the way on this. Thank you for putting this out there in the world and for having me to share a bit of what I'm doing to pay homage to my daughter. So I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. All right. We're not going to cry. You're not going to, this is going to be like Jerry Maguire. I'm not going on Roy Firestone and crying. My friend, stay out of trouble. Be well. I'll probably catch up with you later this week.
Absolutely.
Give Maya a hug, and you know what you got to do. Safety third, bro.
Luca, Tessa, Olivia, Samantha, the same, my friend. We'll talk to you.
Sounds good, Vic.
Talk to you. Ciao.